We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need just a little bit of extra content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your significant other. Share it with your priest, your psychiatrist, your cat, and your dog. Welcome in to the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue, my favorite two announcers of all time, besides Howard Cosell. But anyways, welcome in. It's a special edition live show. We did an emergency episode last night. We had to do it again. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so because you'll get notified. You get somewhat of a heads up of what we're going to do next. Go to our Twitter account at Flag Empire. You see the ticker. You see it listed on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Just so you might get a heads up on when we're going to go live and do an episode next, because we are kind of an unscheduled channel. We are the rebel outpost of all of college football in more ways than one. So we can come on at any time. We could be coming on at 1 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning. We could. So come on in. First thing we got a stack show. Stack show tonight. The Big Ten expansion door that was closed in that decision window that we reported to you all in July, that decision window between August 15th and October 15th. A go or no go for launch for further expansion at this time. The decision was made. It was a no-go. We let you know about it. The door is about to get kicked open again. Keep your powder dry, Oregon Ducks in the Washington Huskies. We talked about it here at Peek Around the Corner, it wasn't just Kevin Warren who wanted to expand with more Pacific Coast teams. Yes, there are schools against it, but there are schools that are for it. There are media companies that are for it if you do the right moves. And we're going to be talking about that today. Dennis Dodd touched upon it last night. We had a couple nuggets of information. Well, we had one nugget of information, and then we just had a simple question. We're not alleging anything here at Peek Around the Corner. We just asked a simple question. First of all, the nugget of information is we got steam that Apple TV is out at this time for a potential Pac-12 media partner. Could they come back in? Probably not, but maybe. But for now, they're out. Now, no one else has confirmed this, but we thought it was wise. We thought it was good for us to put it out there for you. You remember, we have put out other nuggets of information. We like to say we're putting it out there, and if other information comes in, you all can connect the dots. We're going to give you a peek. We believe there's steam that Apple TV is out at this time. We also gave you some peeks in our episodes during Tuesday and Wednesday. We didn't go live. We thought maybe today was the best day to go live. It did not, from the perspective of the people who we talk to, and you know who they are, the Arizona State Money Perch, and he talks to other people in the Money Perch, Arizona. This week did not go well. Now, let me make something perfectly clear. Somebody can come out of that Pac-12, whatever you want to call it, a meeting, a get-together, come out of there and say, proclaim to a reporter, we made progress. We like what we heard. And then there can some people that are going to come out of that meeting and say, that was underwhelming. They didn't even meet our low expectations. Both of those can be true at the same time. And I think that's probably what happened. Because the 10 schools, while they may publicly say they're committed to each other, they all have different timelines. And the Pac-12 is really pushing it with a couple schools at least when it comes to a timeline. They have yet to see Thursday. What are we, March 9th? In the morning of Thursday, March 9th, they have yet to see a comprehensive deal placed in front of them. Yes, we were told a couple times in the last couple of days. Yeah, there are projections. There are kind of numbers being put out there. But some of that stuff, some of those projections, it's content that is overlapping each other. In other words, it's a double dip. I'm not going to go too much further into that, but there is no comprehensive deal placed in front of them that they're hashing it out at this time, March 9th, Thursday morning. Okay, so we're just going to put that out there. The simple question that we had last night, I would love for someone to ask it and answer it, not just besides us here, our little corner of the world, the Rebel Outpost of College Football YouTube channels, but have the Pac-12 finished it? Have they finished their audits? And what were the results of those audits? Do you owe a little less than $50 million? The combination of the 10 or the 12, because UCLA and USC will owe some of the 12 Pac-10, Pac-12 universities, plus the conference. Do you owe a little less than $50 million? Do you owe $50 million? Or could it be a little bit more than $50 million? Just a question I would like that to be asked to George Kliakoff. We do not do interviews. We don't grant interviews here at Peek Around the Corner. I'm not bright enough. It's not in my skill set to ask a bunch of questions. I'm going to let someone else do that on their YouTube channels, because there's a lot of great college football YouTube channels that do excellent excellent interviews. Mark Rogers, for one, the voice of college football, the godfather of college football YouTube, does great interviews. I don't have that skill set. Someone else can do that, but I just would like that question to be asked and answered. Having finished the audits, what were the results of those audits? I'm not alleging anything, but I think it's a question that needs to be asked. Dennis Dodd, this morning, or this afternoon, this morning, came out with a huge article, and we agree with, I think, everything, but maybe one point. We can either further push the story on one of the points that Dennis Dodd made. We got some information in regards to that Big Ten expansion door. Remember this whole process we've been saying since the door was closed, since it was a no-go for launch, that we've been poking and pushing. We don't got anything at Peek Around the Corner in regards to further expansion of the Big Ten, in regards to the door being open again. We didn't have it. We talked about it Monday night. We talked about it Saturday night. Pete Thamel said the door was open, cracked open, but now we got some information. And it's a little bit further, pushed a little bit further than the information that Dennis Dodd gave. So we're going to go through that. As you can see, we have a stacked show. We had to do a live show. We had to do it. We didn't think it was quite right to do it Wednesday night. We put out an emergency episode. We didn't think Tuesday. We put out information on Tuesday that no one received a comprehensive plan. We put it out on Twitter Tuesday night that none of the Pac-12 schools got it. And then it was reported yesterday by others that no, there was no comprehensive plan put out there by the presidents. So, first of all, before we get to our stacked show, if you're new to the show, I do a monologue, then I take your comments, then I take your phone calls at 763-260-1333. The phone lines are not open yet. Just hang on. Just hang on. We have a stacked show today. But let's first get to we are very, very fortunate to have an incredible sponsor to our show. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. The Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference, the clean, hot air roasted coffee, produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. This is incredible coffee. Smooth, smooth, smooth. We provide a link in the description box below the video. Check it out. And if you do order this incredible coffee, try the Blue Bali Moon coffee, by the way. Try that. Holy smokes. I think it's like cherry and chocolate and walnut. Woo! Fantastic. Give it a try. If you do wish to give this a try, when you order it, and if you want to support our channel, put PATC in the comments section on the website, and I thank you so very much. Okay, let's get to the Dennis Dodd article. An explosion of information. A lot of it, almost all of it, we can pretty much confirm this week has not gone well for the Pac-12 when it comes to keeping all 10 schools together. They did not meet the lowered expectations of the Arizona schools. We can tell you that. Let's go to the article. Again, I will get to your comments as soon as I possibly can. Dennis Dodd. Big 12 readies to pounce on the Four Corner schools as doubt creeps in about the Pac-12's viability. As Brett Yormark ducked into a waiting car service Tuesday night, it may have been the first time he was recognized outside the office in his still new job. That's the Big 12 commissioner. Okay, this is a little bit over the top from Dennis Dodd, so I'm going to have fun with this part. That's the Big 12 commissioner, Gushday Group, standing on a street corner as if Paul McCartney had just walked by. Okay, in general, college commissioners aren't recognized on the street. At this rate, Yormark may graduate quickly to a rock star status in his town. Dennis Dodd laying it on a little bit too thick, but you get the point. The first-year boss sees possibilities for his league reflected this week by the Big 12 tournament. Thanks to Yormark, the scene involves way more than basketball. By Saturday night, Shaquille O'Neal, hired by the Big 12, will be sitting courtside at the T-Mobile Center prior to his Saturday night DJ appearance in conjunction with the event. That's after a Friday night concert by rapper Fat Joe. Yormark commissioned a Big 12 basketball anthem, No Nights Off, that will play in a loop around the arena this week. My vision for this conference is that we're going to live at the intersection of culture and sports, Yormark told the media on yesterday. In the 208 floor seats Yormark reproposed from the media seating are any indication the nation's best basketball conference in the country, in the nation, is about to become what Yormark promised. Hippier, young, sexier. A Las Vegas on the plains. Yormark took those seats, sold them out for $5,000 each to high rollers, and created a championship club underneath the stands where only they can enjoy what amounts to a high-end pop-up speakeasy. 4 new sets of fans, those from BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, are already smelling the big time. Whatever there is to make our product better, let's do it, Kansas coach Bill Self said of the commissioner Wednesday before the tournament tip-off. From a promotional standpoint, anything that is doable, he'll do. It may not stop with the entertainment aspect. Yormark continues to pursue the Pac-12's 4 corner schools. Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. There have been, quote, unquote, weekly conversations between the Big 12 and those 4 programs as talks have heated up. One league insider tells CBS Sports. But that's not the money shot. That's not the PATC money shot in this article. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer for it. The Big 12 sources were waiting anxiously to hear the results of a Colorado Board of Regents meeting held to discuss the program's future in the Pac-12. The Colorado University Regents met in a special session according to multiple reports. So according to Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, this Board of Regents meeting might had actually some meat to the bone. Interesting. We did not know that here at Peek Around the Corner. We were the ones that put it up on Twitter, maybe the first ones that put the memo up on Twitter. One of the first ones. Where it had a summary of what they were going to talk about in their Board of Regents meeting. But we did not know there was actual meat on the bone. It may only take one of the 4 corner schools to bolt from the Pac-12 for the other 3 to follow, Big 12 sources say. That, to me, is one we have to get, Self said of Arizona. That, to me, is one that we have to get, Self said of Arizona. I've always thought Arizona schools, Colorado, Utah are a natural fit for us. Kansas State coach Jerome Tang said, who doesn't want to visit Arizona? So, there are coaches out in the public actually discussing Pac-12 schools. which means these coaches have been talked to by the athletic directors, which means the athletic directors have been talked to by the president, which means there's more indication, of course we already know this, of steam, of communication between these schools, intermediaries of these schools and the conference. Representatives, when you have coaches out in public, discussing certain universities of another conference, that means they've had some pretty in-depth communication from their athletic director. Back to the article, seldom has a conference taken on the personality of its commissioner without realizing it yet loving the hell out of it. The Pac-12 has been mostly a closed mouth since last summer when USC and UCLA announced they were leaving for the Big Ten. The Big 12, though, hired a deal-making whirlwind who hasn't been shy about much of anything. The league will play with 14 teams in 2023, 2024 as Texas and Oklahoma play out the string and their 4 newcomers settle in. After that, who knows where expansion takes us, Yormark said. The conference once nicknamed the Pure League because of its Great Plains roots, might as well be renamed Nationwide. That is if Yormark gets his way and becomes the only FBS conference with teams in all 4 time zones. Not only, if Yormark is able to do this, he will not only have the conference with teams in all 4 time zones, of course he will be the only conference that still has a relationship media partnership with Fox Sports and ESPN, the only Power 5 conference. Back to the article. Going coast to coast is part of the motivation of getting bigger. So is potentially getting to 16 teams, which would at least put the Big 12 on par as the 2 superpowers, SEC, Big 10, from a membership standpoint. That would signal stability. Stability, right? We talked about it all the way back on October 30th when Yormark made the deal. When he got the deal done with Fox Sports and ESPN, it was all about Yormark making sure that the Big 12 institutions and the conference would be in the room to cast their votes on the future of college football in regards to the 2026 Great Gold Rush, when the new playoff system takes effect, when it could be an expanded playoffs, when we're going to get mountains of money coming in for at least 11 playoff games, because you're going to have an open bidding out there for the media partners, media companies, unlike the 2024, 2025 playoffs. We don't know what the 2026 is going to look like. We talked about this all the way back in episode 1 of this channel. The Great Gold Rush of 2026, Yormark recognized this, created stability in this conference. Back to the article. It could also mean a renewal of the underrated Holy War rivalry in the same conference for the first time since 2010. Utah, BYU, Holy War, it could be coming back. That rivalry would be worth some eyeballs, some sponsorship money, some revenue for the Big 12 going forward. It's not Duke and North Carolina. But how are things working out in the ACC right about now? Stability is definitely something the Pac-12 can't claim at the moment. Cracks are showing. Yormark and the Big 12 are offering a safe haven. There feels offering a safe haven. Will there be further realignment? 4 corner schools. Here's the money shot. 3 high-ranking industry sources in the last week told CBS Sports they believe Yormark is going to be successful in luring at least some combination of the 4 corner schools. Some went farther speculating, the Pac-12 was a couple weeks away from dissolving. 3 high-ranking industry sources. The dam breaking, in a sense, one source said, as is confidence in the Pac-12 getting a new media rights deal that will keep the 10 schools together. The dam is breaking. The irony in the Pac-12 had two chances to essentially break apart the Big 12 starting in 2010. That year, former Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott failed in his attempt to lure half of the Big 12 to his league. In 2021, when Texas and Oklahoma left, the Pac-12 chose not to go after what was left of a crumbling Big 12. Former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby moved quickly that summer to add BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. Part of the big reason why the Pac-12 could not move in 2021 to go after some Big 12 schools, to get into some central time zone content, for a couple reasons. One, USC did not want to because they were planning at that time to call the Big Ten when the time was right. And number two is there was some schools in the Pac-12 that just, again, did not want to expand in the central time zone because they felt the schools there did not meet with the Pac-12 standards when it came to research and academics. Oregon and Washington, back to the article. And this is where we can add some information. Here at Peek Around the Corner, March 9th, in the afternoon, Oregon and Washington. The future of the Ducks and Huskies as members of the Pac-12 may be tied to outgoing Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. There are indications. Yes, there is. You can believe us or not here at Peek Around the Corner. We can push this story a little bit further here right now. There are indications at least one Big Ten media rights holder won't engage in expansion talks until Warren officially leaves the conference for the Chicago Bears on April 17th. And I'm going to wait until I'm done with the article before we get into what we were told this morning. That could create an awkward transition for the Pac-12 schools if they have eyes on the Big Ten. The belief is there will be clarity about the Pac-12's future long before April 17th. What will happen to Oregon and Washington if they are in a sort of purgatory waiting their conference fate? They were near the top of Warren's list as he pushed the Big Ten for further expansion after the conference finalized its new media rights deal in August. Back then, Big Ten athletic directors and presidents were against such a move that would include Stanford in California. Without Warren being around to push for those schools, it may work out for their advantage. Eventually, the Big Ten has yet to announce Warren's replacement. At Peek Around the Corner, we told you week in and week out that we had no steam whatsoever on University of California, that the Big Ten money perch, the California money perch, there was nothing there. So that goes in what we believe. Stanford was always going to be part of Notre Dame's greasing the skids to get Stanford in. That window might have closed on Stanford. But Oregon and Washington, that's a different kettle of fish. Yes, Oregon doesn't have the research. They're not a Big Ten institution. We know this. We've talked about it over and over again. Washington is a Big Ten school. Washington has the city of Seattle. But Oregon is a brand multiplier. And again, we're going to give you some information that we received here at Peek Around the Corner when we're done with this article in regards to Washington and Oregon. Pac-12 expansion or backfill. The Pac-12 CEOs have reportedly authorized expansion by as many as 4 teams. However, one industry source notes that move may not be about expansion, but rather backfilling the league should the Pac-12 lose 4 corner schools or more. In other words, the likes of Colorado State and Fresno State wouldn't be expanding the Pac-12. They would be keeping it upright. As we talked about it here, Peek Around the Corner when it came to Colorado State, a very good school, research school, Fort Collins, beautiful, fantastic campus. But when you lose the city of Los Angeles, you don't answer it by doubling up on the state of Colorado. So when that Colorado state was leaked by Kazano and probably others, I don't think it told the story that they wanted to tell at the time. There's no way that Colorado State can be part of a Pac-12 expansion, adding to the current 10 Pac-12 schools. That just makes no sense for their media partners that they're trying to get on board. Makes absolutely no sense. So I agree with this part of the article from Dennis Dodd. The Pac-12 cannot suffer the loss of even 2 teams and remain a viable Power 5 conference, veteran media consultant Neil Pilson told CBS Sports recently. We at Peek Around the Corner, we think there's a chance that they can remain a Power 5 conference, even if the worst case scenario happens because of the playoff managers, right? They already wrote in of who gets what money. 80%, approximately 80% of all playoff money in the expanded playoffs for 2024, 2025 will go to Power 5 programs in those Power 5 conferences. And 20% will be spread out among the G5 schools. I believe that the Pac-12 could rebuild, grab some Mountain West schools, could rebuild and be a Power 5 conference for 2024, 2025. But beyond that, it doesn't look good if the Pac-12 implodes here in the next couple of weeks. Back to the article. I don't think they can afford to lose even 2 more schools. I think if they end up back as the Pac-8 or the Pac-10, it will not be good. Opportunity lost. There have been recent rumblings that the Pac-12 could have received the same deal the Big Ten did in October, $31.66 million per team. Had it acted more aggressively in renewing its media rights, that probably would have solidified the league for years. However, Yormark jumped in front of the line. Big 12 with an October deal that was at first criticized for being below market. Well, there's below market and staying viable as a conference. And I got to tell you something. Peek around the corner. Go back to episode 83. We said it 4 months ago. We didn't have to wait till March. We didn't have to wait till February, January. We said it on October 30th. Big 12 hit a home run when they got that deal in that exclusive window with Fox Sports and ESPN, and the Pac-12 blew it. Because the exposure part was always now going to be a huge problem for the Pac-12. And we also discussed at that time the media market was going to shrink, and it has. ESPN, I think Dennis Dodd alludes to it in this article, and they heard in the last page. We talked about it in our live show Monday night, that there very well could be some major layoffs for one of these big media companies. And the media company starts with the letter E. The Big 12 is assured of at least 12 loyal members through 2030-31 beginning this fall. The Pac-12 survival isn't guaranteed at all. It's not black and white, Pilson said. The market can force you into difficult decisions. If it was an easy choice, the Pac-12 probably would have made it months ago. If they really had a good deal, they probably would have taken it. Adding to the Pac-12 woes, there may be more layoffs coming at some media giants. That's what we have some steam on that as well. One starting with the letter E. That begs the question, if the parties had waited, would ESPN have done the existing Big 12 deal at this time? If not, what does that say for the Pac-12's ability to get anywhere near the Big 12 money in the present? And finally, to finish this article off, you think about media companies and the layoffs and the challenges. Yormark said Wednesday, the fact that we were able to cement a 6-year extension with two of the biggest media partners in the business, Fox and ESPN. When you think about marketing and promotion, we're with the best in the business. And I also want you to think back about all the articles. October 30th, October, November, December, January. All the articles, all the tweets that were saying that Yormark blew it, that he acted too early, that he left money on the table. Think about that. Think about how many people misread the market, misread Pac-12's value, misread Big 12's value. Just think about it. Think about the avalanche of articles, tweets, message boards, the friendly chatter back and forth. And we were pounding the table here at Peek Around the Corner saying, no, no. No. The guy hit a home run. Yormark hit a home run. So, and no, we are independent YouTube channel. We are not bought by anybody. Big 12 don't like us. We've criticized the Big 12 for 10 years. The Big 10 don't like us anymore because we told the story in March of what they were doing, what USC was doing. There's only a couple of media companies that listened to us. USC 247, Minnesota 247. Big 10 followed us. They tracked us. They don't like us anymore. Pac-12 doesn't like us anymore. The ACC is not going to like us in a few months. The SEC doesn't know who I am. But everyone else doesn't like us here at Peek Around the Corner. That's where the rebel outpost of college football. But we're telling you the straight shoot, right? The straight story. Now, let's get back. I'm gonna end my monologue. I'm gonna end my monologue here. In regards to Oregon and Washington, Big Ten expansion door is about to get kicked open. Dennis Dodd referred to as at least one media company not going to do it until Kevin Warren is gone. We were told, Dennis Dodd doesn't know who I am, completely separate reporting, completely separate sources. Fox Sports is not going to do anything until Kevin Warren is gone. Fox Sports is not, they're not interested at this time in Northern California. We speculated on this a few months ago. We speculated on this. Yes, California, one of the top 2 public universities in the country. Them, UCLA, Stanford, obvious. But Fox Sports, according to their valuation, they're not going to expand. They're not going to accept expansion where they cannot sell the Big Ten network, where they have increased their ownership from 51% to 61%. Actually, at the original start of the Big Ten network, they had owned 49%, quickly went to 51%. Now they own 61%. They're not going to support Big Ten expansion. They would, from what we were told, of course, and we've said this before, they would like the milk without buying the cow. There is an opening, there is a possibility of a Washington and Oregon expansion into the Big Ten prior to the start of the 2024 season. The money's got to be there, and it's not coming from Fox Sports. The money has to be there, even with Washington and Oregon coming at a discount rate. The money has to be there. But for the first time since, I believe, October 12th, when we at Peek Around the Corner said the door was closed for further Big Ten expansion, we finally now can say The door is about to be open once Kevin Warren leaves. So, where does that put Washington and Oregon? You see, I don't think they're in a tough spot. I don't. I think they keep their powder dry. Sure, other schools in the Pac-12 have a different deadline. The Arizona schools. We don't know anything about the Utah-Colorado situation. We don't have that information at Peek Around the Corner. Arizona schools have a different deadline. But Washington and Oregon, they can keep their powder dry. They can wait. They can wait. You remember, they've both had meetings with the Big Ten. Preliminary discussions. Oregon had them in Chicago. Washington had it in New York City with the Big Ten. They know the interest. And we said back in episode 52, Oregon Money Perch said if we don't get in now, this is prior to October, prior to inside the decision window, he said we're going to keep swinging. They have kept swinging away to get into the Big Ten. They know their value. Big Ten knows their value. Big Ten Network would sell like hotcakes in the state of Washington. The Big Ten Network would sell like hotcakes in the state of Oregon. So Fox Sports is willing to play with that expansion route. The money has to be there. The votes from the Big Ten presidents have to be there. And Kevin Warren has to be gone. But I think Washington and Oregon can wait. Now, just them waiting. The ability for them to wait has put even more pressure on the Four Corners schools. And they realize that. Okay? I'm finally done with this long monologue. I'm going to get to your comments, and then we're going to open up the phone line. Again, phone lines are not open yet. Thanks for everybody coming in. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And smash that like button. Smash that like button. I think this Genetics 56 has to be an imposter because he has no respect for me and vice versa. Ryan Martin, Kenner Bauman, nothing super new yet, just reading the Dodds article. T-Duck, nice to see you in the house. Ducks 2-0 versus Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. Observer 46, Oregon and Washington rivalries may be fun with the Big Ten, but they lose money for the conference and cut back on games between 100-year rivalry, totally contrary to what the big schools want. I don't think so. I don't think they would cut back on the games between the 100-year rivalries. You can mark it up. In fact, we've talked about here at Peek Around the Corner, it's easier to schedule. I want to see if I still got that picture up on my... it's easier to schedule with 18 teams, in my opinion. I might not have that anymore. Just an example I threw out there. Yeah, I don't have that anymore. Yeah, you can... I don't think it cuts back in any rivalry games. In fact, you can... It's already going to cut back somewhat with, if you go to 10 conference games, the 18-team thing works out beautifully. It does. Your 3 permanent rivals, now it's easy for USC and UCLA to have those 3 permanent rivals. Now you're going across the country less often in everything, in all sports. Grateful Trojan, I'm not happy about any of this. Well, we've said it here at Peek Around the Corner from day one that USC would be a vote, yes or no. UCLA would be a vote, yes or no, on further Big Ten expansion out to the Pacific Coast. But in no way did USC have a veto. And they didn't talk about that when they were discussing it with the Big Ten to come into the conference. That was one of those great myths out there, that USC did not say, we would come in as long as you keep so-and-so school out. That was never part of the discussions. The Brad King 2001, don't be modest, Greg. Some of us in SEC country know who you are and our fans. Thank you so much, Brad King. Okay, there may be 10 or 12 of you who know. I know Stingray, and he knows me. We're friends from way back. So, but other than that, I don't think there's many people who know who I am out there. A lot of people talking about research. Research is huge for the Big Ten presidents. Absolutely. You have to be a research school. I mean, there are going to be some exceptions to that. Notre Dame, for example. Being a research school is more important. Well, I shouldn't confuse the two, but yeah. And that's the problem with Oregon's candidacy. They are not a big research university. But if you look at the perspective of Fox Sports, they're just not going with the Stanford and California scenario. And we talked about that months ago as a problem. And we were told this morning that's a problem. And Kevin Warren wanted all four of those schools, right? All four. And Fox Sports didn't want to do that. They didn't want to do it. So now, new commissioner coming in. Oregon and Washington might come in at an even steeper discount rate. And let's go back to, last week episode that we had and peek around the corner, when there was talk about Big Ten having struggles figuring out their scheduling, their three permanent rivals, right? I can't remember what episode it is. If someone figures that out, put in the comments section. We had a person, one of B-Tim's associates. If you don't know who B-Tim Associates, look at our pinned tweet at Flag Empire, the article in the Los Angeles Times. One of his associates back in 2020, September 16th, gave us the list of every Big Ten school crossover games, home and away. That was the leading candidate, the leading list to happen, for it to be announced in the next few days. We published that on Minnesota 247. On September 17th, the next day, media companies went out there, 247 and other companies went out there and announced that, yes, the Big Ten was working on finalizing their crossover games for the shortened 8-game scheduled 2020 season. In September 19th in the morning, the Big Ten Network made their announcement, and our BTM associate who gave us the information on September 16th, we put it out there, Minnesota 247. He was absolutely correct on every crossover game, home and away. We believe we're the only ones who had it. That person was dumbfounded. Befuddled was the word. Befuddled that Big Ten could not come up with their three permanent rivals for each school because they had the process built. They already built it up. Of course, there's disagreements, but each school is supposed to rank their top choices. The Big Ten Conference had a process to grab all that data and then put out options. The schools would vote on the options. Bam, bam, you've got your three permanent rivals for each school going forward from 2024 and beyond. Those 16 schools. The process has already been built in the last few months. What happened? What happened? It didn't happen. They couldn't come into decision. So we put out there at Peek Around the Corner, we got raked over the coals on this, like we always do. Is it because the Big Ten, there's a crack, there's an opening that maybe it won't be a 16-team composition conference for 2024? And they do not want to do the Michael Scott at the office, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. I know a lot of people want to call. We're going to be here as long as it takes. As long as it takes. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some bots here. We're going to get rid of some trolls, people acting like there's somebody else. We're getting rid of all that. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. The number is 763-260-1333. What do you think about the information that was presented by Dennis Dodd? Our information. Big Ten door about to get kicked open again. Room for two. Oregon and Washington. Can they get the votes? Who's going to be the Big Ten commissioner? Can it get done? But the door is definitely going to get open once Kevin Warren leaves. (763-260-1333). Dennis Dodd. We believe Apple TV is out. Just checking a couple of notes here. Garrett Raver, is there a timetable for Kevin Warren leaving? I think April. I think middle of April. I think he's got to be out the door. I think the next commissioner's got to be in the door. And I think it's going to be somebody who is a current commissioner or has been a commissioner, or it's a long-time Big Ten athletic director. And I also would put out Mark Silverman. Ion, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. Here's the thing. Ross Dellinger, Sports Illustrated, was interviewed by the Pony Express YouTube channel, SMU YouTube channel. Bill Embody, I believe his name is. And he basically said, a Pac-12 official said, if the streaming component of this new deal is over 50%, it's not going to work. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing it. That won't work for us. I think that's what the Pac-12 official said. The Pac-12 needs ESPN they need to have a pretty decent role in this, but ESPN is not willing to spend money at this time. We believe there's going to be layoffs at ESPN here shortly. So, Greg, in your view to today, Wild Oot. Greg, in your view as of today, what will be the fate of each remaining Pac-12 member not named Oregon and Washington? I think there's going to be a holy war back on. Utah, BYU, Colorado, Arizona State in the Big 12. February 24th, for the first time at Peek Around the Corner, we had flipped the odds. It was in favor of the Pac-12 imploding. All the way up until then, we thought it was favored that the Pac-12 was going to stay together. But now that we know that the Big Ten expansion door is about to get kicked open again, the moment that Kevin Warren leaves, this is real, folks. This is real. This is real. So, great for Trojans. Schools like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan State, Illinois should be really against expansion. Washington Ducks are going to take away exposure for your brands. Maybe some of them are. Iowa's against it. Minnesota's probably against it. They're going to have to be convinced. They're going to have to be convinced. Now, are going to take away exposure. And I kind of agree with that in the sense of if any of those schools, if Minnesota, my beloved Golden Gophers, have to go play on Amazon 2 or 3 times a year in football, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. Can't do it. Maybe once. Maybe once. But then again, Oregon is a brand multiplier. An Oregon-Minnesota game, Oregon and Illinois game, Washington. Double-edged sword there, but I understand Grateful Trojans. I understand his point. But I also brought up this point many times before. You know, we were told like over and over and over again. And that's why we kept saying it to you all. The whole idea that the Big Ten is going to become a 20-school conference, and they will become a 20-school conference. The whole idea that the Big Ten is going to become a 24-school conference in the next 10 to 12 years, and that very well could happen. The idea that that would happen in only 2 schools in the Big Ten are west of Lincoln, nah, it just isn't going to happen that way. Be it 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now, or 7 years from now. A 20-school or 24-school Big Ten conference is not going to have just 2 schools on the Pacific Coast. It's not going to happen. What? You can't... I mean, first of all, now, Monavision, Mr. Buckeye and I have had discussions on this. Maybe the recruiting advantage that UCLA and USC had wouldn't bother Ohio State to have that whole western part of the country to themselves in a Power 5 or Power 3 landscape. Maybe it wouldn't bother Ohio State. It's going to bother these other schools. For USC and UCLA to have a full invested slice of the Big Ten network on day one, none of the other schools receive that. On day one, UCLA and USC are not going to take less from the Big Ten network. They're going to get exactly what Minnesota gets. And we were the ones that helped build the network. We were the ones who had to put millions of dollars into the network. We got shortchanged for 6 years to pay out our sugar daddy Fox Sports to build the network. When everybody was ripping on the conference network, the concept of a conference network, when Jim Delaney built it and he got ripped on it, Minnesota, Illinois, Purdue, Buckeyes, Wolverines, they all spent money to pay for it. And UCLA and USC is going to benefit from all of that and be fully invested owners of the Big Ten network. Think about it. 39% of the network is owned by 17 slices, 16 of the Big Ten schools, and 1, the conference owns the slice. And you're going to let UCLA and USC have this incredible advantage over everybody, over anything west of Lincoln. It's not going to happen. John Telly, I'm late. Why no Stanford in California? Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate from our perspective. Fox Sports is a no-go on that because they don't think the Big Ten network would sell at all in those 2 in Northern California. They've done the network. We've talked about it months ago, but there's a lot of different variables that go into the decision. Fox Sports, Oregon and Washington, they can work with that. If the schools, if the presidents, if some other media company comes up with the money, a whole lot of things have to happen. But Northern California, no. Not at this, it isn't there. The consumer isn't there to buy the Big Ten network. Big Ten is not going to expand anywhere that does not increase the value of the Big Ten network. Mark Silverman is the president of Fox Sports, the CEO. He was the president of the Big Ten network when it was first created by Delaney. Oregon and Washington, they can work with it. We'll see what happens. The door is going to be opened once Warren leaves. Dennis Dodd has that story correct. Pete Thamel had that story correct a couple weeks ago. We did not have it here at Peek Around the Corner. Right there. You see Oregon, Washington, Oregon, Wisconsin, Washington, Ohio State, Minnesota. That's the Peek Around the Corner filing system. That's our trash can. All right. 763-260-1333. We're opening up the phone lines. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. The lines are open. LFG, thanks for this content realignment segment. It's far more interesting. Well, we're going to get real interesting when we talk about these spring football games. Real interesting. We're going to be doing live shows, live watch parties. Buckle up. Buckle up, PATC community.
Call from
West Virginia guy.
West Virginia guy. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
As a West Virginia fan, I'm for the Big 12 adding Pac-12 schools. But again, that's going to make West Virginia travel even more bad. But it's about the long-term health of the Big 12.
Yeah, it's it's a tough thing for West Virginia. Your traveling's only going to increase, but on the other hand, West Virginia guy, you are secured. You're at the table when 2026 comes around. If you're able to do this, if you're able to poach the Pac-12, eliminate the Pac-12 as a Power 5 conference, get Utah in the boat, get the Arizona schools in the boat, get Colorado in the boat, it secures the Big 12. It secures West Virginia.
Also, West Virginia fan, I'm excited to see if Coach Prime comes to Morgantown.
I'm sorry, you're fading on your phone call.
I'm sorry. As a West Virginia fan, also, I'm actually excited to get to play Colorado and the possibility of having Coach Prime come to Morgantown.
Yep. It's exciting. It could happen. The chances right now today are better than ever before.
And I predict the Big 12 could add them during the Big 12 championship this weekend.
It could. It could happen. It did not. From what we've been told, from the people who talked to us, this week did not go well for certain schools that needed more information. They did not get it. I'll let you off the phone here. Thanks for the phone call.
You have a good day.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Call again, sir. Again, we say two things can be true at once. Someone could have walked out of that Pac-12 week this week and said, in those meetings, and said, progress was made. Other people can say, holy bleep, nothing was done. Both things can be true at the same time.
Call from
Smitty.
The floor is yours. I'm sorry, I did not get your name.
My name is Smitty.
Mitty. Okay, what do you got to say, sir?
So I think honestly, the Washington and Oregon are going to get in. Stanford and Cal are going to get in, only because UCLA and USC are on the island, so they need more schools on that side to help with travel and all that good stuff. I do think the teams that are coming in are going to take a lesser share at first. And I think all this is going to happen once Kevin Warren leaves office. And I think the next commissioner that might be to get tapped will be Gene Smith from Ohio State. To go ahead and
Gene Smith did say he's not interested. He said that in public. Now, sometimes candidates say that and they are interested, but we'll see. We shall see.
Yes.
I know for this expansion to fly with Oregon and Washington, Ohio State's probably going to have to be on board. They're going to have to be one of the yes votes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and my thing about it is too. I think overall what is going to happen is, I think we're going to only have two conferences with the SEC, the Big Ten, and also with the Big 12. But the Big 12 would be kind of that 1B conference that has, a mixture of like BYU to Cincinnati's, and whenever I think the ACC is going to break up eventually, and Florida State and possibly some others will go to the SEC, and then maybe Miami, UNC, and Georgia Tech will go to the Big Ten, or however that that thing pans out. But
okay.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks for the phone call. Call again. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat, John. One more thing. Washington State has a top 25 fan base. They have a good representative fan base for the market that they're in, for the size of the market. Absolutely 100% true. I do think, just my projections, from 2026 for the next 7 years, there'll be 4 power conferences. I don't think ACC is going away, totally going away anytime soon.
Moen.
Moa Vision is in the house. Mr. Buckeye, the floor is yours. What's going on?
Well, Greg, I might have to resign myself to not getting Notre Dame on this.
Well,
on this cycle of expansion, unfortunately. Like you said, I think Fox Sports isn't going to be paying up. Somebody's got to step up and do it. And I don't think it'll be ESPN.
No.
I don't think the Big Ten will want to do anything with ESPN. So I think that only really leaves Amazon as a viable source for a Friday night game. Friday night Big Ten. Unfortunately for Oregon and Washington, they may end up having to take a few more of those slots than they would want. And Oregon may end up having to play some teams they don't particularly want to. Your Rutgers, your Illinois, your Indianas, your Northwesterns.
Your Minnesota. We're all going to have – a lot of those Western schools are going to have to do that game if it happens.
Right. Yeah. Because they want, those smaller schools want to make sure they're getting their exposure too to get those votes to get them in. Like you said, without Ohio State does have a sort of stewardship role over some of the smaller schools, so they're going to want to make sure they're taken care of. But I wanted to talk to you about the Big Ten commissioner. Have you heard any steam about when that's supposed to happen? Because it seems that this is dragged on quite a bit. It's been quite an extensive search.
I haven't heard anything, and in our perch that we get information from, the money perch, they don't get that type. That's not in their. That's administrators. We don't have that information. We didn't have any names in the last search. We were like, we don't know. Kevin Warren came out of nowhere. So no, we just don't have that info. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating
to see. And that's what, that article from Dennis Dodd, he touched upon it, that they weren't interested in moving forward until there was a new commissioner.
Yep. And that's what
my guess is. That media company is Amazon. They don't want to. They obviously have bad feelings towards Kevin Warren for not accepting the bigger money deal to put that 3:30 game on their service.
We heard it was Fox Sports. We actually heard
right.
It was
I understand that, but I think Amazon might be unwilling to engage too.
Yeah, that could be very well true. That's a very good point. Very good point.
But I would say that I would like to see some assurances from Oregon, especially on the research side. And I know that annoys a lot of people. But when compared to other Big Ten schools, it's not any tiny gap. It's significant.
Yeah.
Oregon's only at around $100 million annually.
Yeah,
your next smallest in the Big Ten is Nebraska at $300 million.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And then we've got 7 or 8 institutions now, I believe, and with Washington it would be 8 that exceed $1 billion annually.
Yep. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota,
Ohio State.
Yeah.
I believe Penn State just crossed $1 billion this year.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, there's large dollars out there for that. But yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. But I still don't think that'll happen unless somebody moves first. I don't see the Big Ten taking Oregon and Washington until somebody moves. Okay. I think those 4 corners, somebody has to leave. Either Arizona, Colorado, or all 4 corners have to leave before they would take them.
I
know you disagree, but I'm just
I don't disagree. Before we thought the ASU Money Perch guy, the very first letter, he says Oregon has to leave first, Washington has to leave first. By letter number 4 and then number 5, he repeated it. He said, no, that's not the case anymore. In fact, I'm going to try to get that letter back up here. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to see if I can find that letter. I got so much stuff on here now. Hold on one second. Monavision, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, Greg.
I'm sorry. Just give me a second here. Oh, here we go. Now this was Monday, March 6th, 10:08 in the morning. 2 months ago, we talked about this Monday Night Live show. 2 months ago, we were holding out hope we would see media deal that could lift the conference toward next media with some momentum. But losing the LA market media and the media economics going through a recession, so to speak, has left Pac-12 vulnerable. We don't believe Washington and Oregon have to be the first out the door anymore for it to collapse. Arizona schools can be the first ones out if the deal looks bad. Arizona State won't move without Arizona, which he said prior to that many times. Big 12 knows that they are limited in what they can do until everyone sees the numbers here in the next 24 to 28 hours, and this week has been very disappointing. Very disappointing. Leaks will happen quickly if GK can't bring in the structure of the numbers. You're starting to see the leaks, right? Dennis Dodd, we were given information on the Apple TV, not being a part of it anymore. Leaks will be purposeful. I can't deny that. Real action and chaos will happen right after the conference basketball tournament, but leaks will happen immediately, and they have. Dennis Dodd, we just got it, right? GK has no more time just to bring in projections. This was March 6, 10:08 in the morning. All right, back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's, like I said, I don't see it happen. You're right. He's right. One of them has to leave before. And I think that's a smart move for all 4 corners to do. I understand they want to stick it out But they have to realize this media deal would be the last media deal of the Pac-12. The next cycle, So I think the best move for all of them is to get on the ground floor instead of having to go there 6 years from now, maybe not getting quite the warm welcome that you would have got. So I'll let you go, and I'll let some other people call in here. But no future Big Ten expansion without Notre Dame, Greg.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Oh, here's Terry Nord. Terry Aloysius, Himmelacious, Connotacious, Bitter Smack, Gopher. Terry Nord, 330 people watching. Don't they have jobs? Yes, they do, Terry. This PATC community is elite. Terry's just joking with all you guys. All right.
Call from
Larry.
Larry, the floor is yours. Sorry about that. I couldn't get the call up, but thanks for calling.
Hey, it's no problem. How you doing today?
Good. Real good, sir.
Great.
What's on your mind?
Hey, listen. Well, here's what's on my mind. Just continue to see these reports from Dennis Dodd and others that it's only imminent before the Pac-12 just totally ceases to exist after 2024. The longer this goes, the worse it gets for the Pac-12 and Kliavkoff. The fact that he's not even having a press conference at his conference championship tournament, to me, is mind-blowing. Meanwhile, you see Yormark just talking it up, having press conferences every day. I even seen a picture where he's taking pictures with the media in the press box during the tournament. I mean, his media skills are unparalleled in terms of promoting the Big 12. And so the Pac-12 is just basically losing the narrative. And the quieter that Kliavkoff stays, the likelihood of these teams like Arizona, even Colorado, the likelihood of those teams jumping become more likely. Matter of fact, I'm the guy on Twitter who tagged you about the statement on SMU.
Yeah.
During that interview. And so that interview I watched, and it was very telling because if you got high-level Pac-12 officials saying 50% of streams not going to do, well, I don't know where they're going to do with the rest of their content after Amazon gets Tier 1 on Friday night and ESPN gets Tier 2 on Pac-12 After Dark Saturday night. I don't know where you go.
Yeah. Great comments. Absolutely.
And,
you're absolutely correct. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's no problem. And just in reference to Washington, I can see them taking, even less than 50% on the Big Ten deal. The Big Ten is going to get a real cheap deal out of Washington and Oregon once this Pac-12 thing looks like it's going down like the Titanic.
Yeah, I think you're hitting it all over the park right now. Home run after home run. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to simply state that Stanford's just out here lost in the wind. I mean, with all the endowment they claim to have, it might just be suitable for them to go independent like Notre Dame.
Yeah, it could. If they don't want to, especially if they don't want to enter into the new college football world that we're going into, okay? We're going into it. These student athletes are going to get compensated at a higher level. They're going to get direct compensation from the schools and or conferences, not just NIL. It's coming. Watch Johnson versus NCAA. Look at what the Ivy League schools, they just had a lawsuit against them. It's coming. Does Stanford want to participate in that type of future? Maybe not so much. So that's part of the evaluation from the Big Ten end of it as well.
It seems to me that California and Stanford need to just create the Ivy League West, go down to FCS for football and just join the Ivy League, especially with that Ivy League lawsuit coming, because if they're going to unwind that agreement, that gentleman's agreement where they say no athletic scholarships, well, I could see Stanford and Cal jumping to the Ivy League, making the Ivy League West, and if they were smart, maybe build the Ivy League up into a situation where they could be major players on the FCS level with all the money that they got, and maybe they could start a coast-to-coast thing on the Ivy school level. I mean, that to me will make a lot of sense, especially if they're not willing to make the investments in football.
Yeah.
All right, have a good day.
Beautiful call, man. Please call again, Larry, please. Thanks.
Yep.
Outstanding. The caller touched on the 50%, like the Pac-12. A Pac-12 official said, if it's more than 50% streaming, that's not going to work. Well, where's all this linear platforms that you're going to put your content in? Who's going to take that tonnage? Who's going to take that tonnage? It's not going to be ESPN. It doesn't sound like it's going to be ESPN. And again, there is steam out there. I'm going to use the word steam. You can take however you want it. But layoffs, the media market, it's in a recession right now. We talked about it on October 30th. We talked about it all. We didn't wait. A peek around the corner. We didn't wait. It was October 30th. When the Big 12 cut in line, that was huge news. And I tell you, most reporters out there, they were questioning your mark, leaving money on the table. They just didn't quite get it. All right. A lot of talk about why is Maryland and Rutgers making so much more money than West Virginia and other schools. I got to say, Maryland's spot should have been the University of Virginia spot, but Virginia blew it. They didn't take that spot. Maryland did. They should build a statue for the president, for the lady who made the decision to go to the Big Ten. Big Ten was always going to go east with their 13th and 14th school. Always, always, always. They wanted the Eastern market. They wanted the Eastern media. Jim Delaney wanted the conference to become a two-region conference at that time. They were always going to go east. So what were the best schools available? North Carolina, not interested. Virginia turned out to be not interested over and over and over. This is before they put the exit fee in the ACC. This is before the 2013 grant of rights in the ACC. So this was before that. Schools were available, but they were not interested. Maryland, they saw the light. Rutgers would not have been 14 if Maryland would not have been 13. There would have been no 13 and 14 if Maryland didn't take the bid, the invitation. Maryland took it, so then Rutgers got in as 14. That's how it went down. And unbelievable. Unbelievable that those two schools got in. But Maryland, they saw something that Virginia and North Carolina completely missed. Yes, Maryland is still broke. But they're going to be making double what Virginia's going to be making, what North Carolina's going to be making, what North Carolina State's going to be making, what Duke's going to be making in conference payouts. More than double. Plus the exposure part of it. Iowa State 78, Baylor 72. Coos Corner, I definitely miss those days, the glory days of West Virginia football, the quarterback battle. Nico Marchio versus Garrett Green. Who's going to win that battle? It's got to be Marchio. At about, sometime after the Penn State game. It's got to be Nico, right? corner, Coos Corner, it's got to be Nico. Sometime, man, they play Penn State, they play Pittsburgh, September 16th, I think. By the end of September, Nico Marco has to be the quarterback at West Virginia. His time is now. Check it out. Thanks for coming in the house. I think Oregon is going to demand top dollar. If they are top 5, if they go to the Big Ten, they're not going to get top 5. They're not going to get top dollar. They're going to have to come in as a discount. Coos Corner. Nico is the odds-on favorite, but GG has moxie. He won't give it up without a fight. That's true. Green has moxie. There's no question about it. He's got some legs. He can make some plays. He's got a strong arm. But Nico, man, I love this tape at Arizona High School tape a couple years ago. I don't know when or where that West Virginia spring football game's at. I'm going to have to check on it, see if I have access to it. If I do, I might have a live watch party for that spring football game. Yeah, Oregon would absolutely take a pay cut. No question about it. Oregon has zero leverage. Blaze Bunny. No question about it. Big Ten would love Oregon's new track facility. April 22nd. Ooh, April 22nd. That's when the Gopher spring football games at 11 o'clock, Big Ten Network. We're going to be doing the Golden Gophers watch party spring game. So unless West Virginia has a late afternoon game, I won't be able to do that one. But we'll see. Do you know, Coos Corner, what time they're playing at? Hopefully 2 o'clock Eastern or 3 o'clock Eastern. Because the Gophers are at 11 o'clock Central. 2-hour game. Okay, we'll figure it out. Phone number 763-260-1333. College football's peak around the corner. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel because we can come on at any time. Our episodes are live shows. So subscribe. It helps us a lot with the YouTube algorithms if you smash that like button, if you like our content. So thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you all for coming in an emergency live show this afternoon. Dennis Dodd's article, Big 12 readies to pounce on the Four Corners schools as doubt creeps in the Pac-12's viability. First-year boss sees possibilities for his league reflected in this week by the Big 12 tournament, thanks to Yarmark. My vision for this conference is that we were going to live at the intersection of culture and sports, Yarmark told Media Wednesday. It may not stop with the entertainment aspect. Yarmark continues to pursue the Pac-12's Four Corner schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. There have been weekly conversations between the Big 12 and those four programs as talks have heated up. One league insider tells CBS Sports. The Big 12 sources were waiting anxiously to hear the results of a Colorado Board of Regents meeting held to discuss the program's future in the Pac-12. The California University Regents met in a special session, according to multiple reports. So here we are. Is there some meat to the bone? Was that meeting something that could push forward Colorado's accepting an invitation to the Big 12? Or was it just another meeting that they have? It was a special meeting. The agenda did say that Colorado was meeting there to talk about Pac-12 update and some legal issues. What do you all think? Was that Colorado Board of Regents meeting, is there meat to that bone? We don't know. We don't have any information here at Peek Around the Corner. David Sebesta, thanks for coming in. Four corners bail now and annihilates UW's leverage. Oregon and Washington don't really have that much leverage anyways. I think they know. I think everybody probably has the number of what kind of they would come in as a discount to the Big Ten. I think it mostly has to do with the Big Ten side of the coin. Whoever that commissioner is, can they rally? Can they get the votes? Is that commissioner going to be pro-expansion into Oregon and Washington? Or are they going to hit the pause button, wait a couple years? I do think I happen to be, maybe I'm the only one, but we happen to believe, I should say, because the people I talk to at Peek Around the Corner happen to believe that Washington, Oregon, they can keep their powder dry. They can wait. Even if the four corner schools go to the Big 12, they can wait. They can sit there. They can wait for the Big Ten to make the decision. And if it's a no-go, again, no-go for launch for further Big Ten expansion, then Oregon and Washington have some options. They can call the Big 12. They'll take them in as the 17th and 18th school. They're not dilutive. They're not going to decrease the pie. Oregon and Washington, they'll be fine. Or maybe they bundle together their content to have some indie type of contract with Amazon for just a couple years to swing again. Remember here, Peek Around the Corner in episode 52, Oregon Money Perch, high up on the perch, told us if we don't get in now, we're going to keep swinging, and Washington is in the same spot. We're going to keep swinging because there's enough there. There's enough there. They received enough positive information in those preliminary meetings. Oregon and Chicago with the Big Ten representatives, Washington in New York City with the Big Ten representatives. They both received enough positive information. So they're going to keep swinging. And I'm going to tell you something. Those four corner schools know that. This is not a secret. Just like it wasn't a secret when the University of California Board of Regents, Rich Lieb, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his last name, the chair, University of California Board of Regents, on April 14th, no, it wasn't April 14th, December 14th, holy smokes, I'm getting my whole calendar mixed up. December 14th, when it was finally decided, when the University of California Board of Regents finally decided on the calimony tax, that UCLA was going to have to pay between $2 to $10 million a year to get out. They're going to go to the Big Ten. They let them go. They didn't block UCLA. Right after that last final meeting, Rich Lieb, University of California Board of Regents, came out in public and told the media, geez, I wish California was going to the Big Ten. In fact, we put pressure on the Big Ten. We put pressure to have California, Stanford, included with Oregon and Washington to go to the Big Ten. The California plan to get those four schools in the Big Ten. Fox Sports wasn't interested. Big Ten presidents weren't interested. Enough of them were not interested. Gene Smith was not interested. But the effect that it had on Arizona State, we know for sure, was cataclysmic. The Arizona schools figured out that they were going to be left alone in a room, the last ones to turn the light switch off. That day, December 14th, was cataclysmic for the ability of George Kliavkoff to get a deal done. They keep the conference together. So this is, none of this is a secret, but I thought we should put it out there again. A lot of fractures for good reasons inside the Pac-12.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is in the house. How you doing, Brian? What's going on, sir?
I'm great. Glad I caught you here. You started a little early today.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't really go by schedule here at Peek Around the Corner, right? We keep all of your heads on a swivel. You've always got to be looking. What's going to happen next at Peek Around the Corner? Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
You actually made a video that made me think about something that I hadn't thought about previously because it might be a new idea that I thought I'd throw by you and see what you think. It had to do with the article that you talked about in terms of the Ivy League.
Yeah.
Knowing some of those folks, them being told what to do is not going to go down very well. They are not going to like it, but they may not have a choice. So if they're going to have to do full-on scholarships, I can see those folks deciding, all right, let's just go ahead and beat them at their game then. But the thing about the Ivy League is it's an FCS conference. It's in Division I, but it's FCS. It has no say in anything. The way Division I works with the new Power 5 voting is anyone else can take in those rules that the Power 5 votes on, but they cannot have any say in it.
Yep, they don't have the votes. Yep.
So if we see a large contingent of the Pac leave and say they leave behind Stanford and, I don't know, Cal, what then would be there to stop the Pac from inviting the Ivy League to merge with it, become a new coastal conference? It brings all those schools up to Division I. Now, will they get say in those rules? I don't know. But if they're going to do it, I don't see them wanting to play around at the FCS level. I mean, they certainly have the money to get involved if they want to get involved. They just never wanted to get involved in the past because they didn't care to put their kids through that. But if they are being forced into that realm, what do you think? You think that they would do that?
I don't know, but you bring up a very good. I don't know how to answer your question, but you bring up a very interesting point.
Thinker.
Huh?
I said it's a thinker. It's something you got to stew on for a while.
Yeah, it's you know, I don't know what the year was, but decades and decades ago, it was a long time ago. Stanford tried to get into the Ivy League. Mm-hmm. The West Coast school all the way, they tried to get into the East Coast Ivy League. Fascinating. California, Stanford. If the Ivy League, now, if they figure they have to give athletic scholarships, not just giving money for based on needs, but having to give scholarships because, quite honestly, they have the money to do both, right? I think. Mm-hmm. I think the courts are going to rule against the Ivy League on this. It's just my opinion.
I agree.
You bring up a fascinating, like what you said, thinker on this. I'm going to have to let it marinate in this old brain of mine.
Think schools like San Francisco University, San Diego University. There's some on the West Coast that people may not think about, but they're big players. They just aren't big players in athletics.
Yeah.
But if something like this was to come along, it opened up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, it does. It does. Great call. Wow.
Yeah, and as far as the other thing, real quick on the ASU and Arizona front.
Yeah.
I know folks are thinking that all four schools will move at the same time, but I'm not seeing that happening because that would immediately take the Pac down below the 7 teams required for NCAA requirements. You need 7 multi-sports program or institutions to remain a conference. So if they take 4 out right away, they're down to 6. So that I don't know if that's really going to happen because then you start talking about legalities and who's responsible for things.
Good point.
That's all I had. I just wanted to dump that at you. I don't know if there's anything else going on, but
no, that's. I'm going to have to think about what you said. Great phone call, outstanding. Thanks, Brian.
No problem, man. Good
call again, sir.
Good talking.
Fantastic call by Brian Immaculate. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to have to do some investigation on it. Thanks, Brian. Please call again. Jared Jones, Buckeyes. Jared Jones, thanks again for your super chat. Lights must stay on. Thank you so much. Go Buckeyes. Great show as always, Greg. Thank you. Your dollars, your donations, let's keep us going. We do not have... we don't have memberships. We don't have all that other stuff because there's no way we could do that on this show. When we have information, when there's stuff to talk about, we just have to go and do it instead of putting it in tiers and all this stuff. So your donations, we appreciate you all so very much for coming in and giving us donations. They're a very generous community. We will be selling Cloak and Dagger mugs. Cloak and Dagger mugs. Because as you all know, you need a mug to put your favorite beverage in. All right. I don't know about a Big Ten meeting, AAR. This weekend, don't know anything about it. Drink responsibly. Mona Vision. Drink that tea responsibly. That coffee or that tequila, whatever you put in your mug. We don't have the mugs ready yet. It's going to take a while. Maybe the next live show, I will put some pictures up for the designs. I'll show you guys what we're thinking of, and you can let us know what you like or not like about our designs. I think I'll do that. The next live show, I will have that ready. When is the next live show? Could be 2 hours from now. We do not know. That's why if you're new to the channel, you got to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified and follow us at Flug Empire. You'll see it on the ticker on the bottom of the screen at Flug Empire because we also put up a heads up. Not all the time, but most of the time. We'll put up a heads up on when the next live show is. And of course, our episodes as well. Oregon is not a bigger brand than Auburn. That's a ridiculous take. Stupsified Mr. Sooner in the house. Probably not, but Oregon is a big brand. And I think most of the country, for whatever reason, don't see it because they're way out in the West Coast. Here in Minnesota, up in the great northern part of our country, we know that Oregon is a big brand. You can see it. They're all over west of us, the fans, west of us in the mountain states. Oregon. If you ever go on those Facebook platforms where they show fan intensity of each school based upon Facebook likes. I know that's not a real scientific method of figuring out how big a team's fan base is, but you can see Oregon has the Oregon fan base reminds me of the Nebraska fan base, bigger than what most of the country thinks they are. However, the Oregon fan base is younger than the Nebraska fan base. If that makes any sense to anybody, I don't know if it does, but just to put it out there, Oregon has a big brand. And what's important about it, and we talked about it months ago, we'll talk about it today. You know, Big Ten takes a lot of things to happen for the Big Ten to expand. Lots of stuff, right? You need the Big Ten presidents. Ultimately, you need their votes. But you also need Fox Sports to be on board. And Fox Sports would be on board with an Oregon and Washington at this time. Other things are going to happen. But they're not on board with the Northern California situation. And some Big Ten presidents are probably the opposite on that. So, the next commissioner, whoever that is, and that's going to be a fascinating story. It's going to be very interesting what happens. K-Do, thank you, Mr. Kansas Jayhawk. Keep up the great work. Nothing to add to the discussion. Take the wife out for a burger and a brew. Thanks for what you do, Rock Chalk. I owe you the Rock Chalk. God, I got to sing the Rock Chalk fight song. I have to do that. I received the donation. I apologize. I owe the Rock Chalk fight song. My excuse is I've had a cold. I'm fighting it. I'm about to defeat it. So maybe on the next live show, I do the Rock Chalk. Thanks for reminding me, K-Do. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, good sir. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you for your generous, very generous donation. Holy smokes. Thank you, K-Do. Appreciate it. Kansas Jayhawk is in the house. John Dry, sounds like Minnesota could have 1 foot in the PAC with the AAU status. Minnesota's not going anywhere until maybe there's a super league built in 15, 20 years from now. Somebody on in the chat a couple shows ago went out and said that it was very pretentious of me to believe that Minnesota is safe in this new world of college sports. We never said Minnesota is safe. No way would I say that here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. No way would I say that. Are they safe now? Yes. Are they probably going to be safe after the next media contract? Maybe yes. But we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We just have a peek around the corner. Years and years out, we're going to have to see how it develops. Could these conferences get so big they fracture and they break up? Realignment never sleeps. That's rule number 1. Minnesota's about the 9th, 10th, 11th most valuable school in the Big Ten. They're not the top half. They're the bottom half. They're going to become more bottom half once UCLA joins. They become even more bottom half when Washington and Oregon joins. So no, Minnesota's not safe for the next 100 years. We would never say that here at Peek Around the Corner. Never, 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 never. Never said that. So I don't mind people agreeing with me, disagreeing with me. I love it more if you disagree with me, but don't put words in my mouth. And so I said that to the gentleman that was in our comments section here. Minnesota was one of the 6 teams that created the Big Ten. They're one of the schools that made has been in every single decision made in the Big Ten. We didn't get the golden ticket. We didn't win the golden ticket. We created the golden ticket. We printed it for other schools to get. But having said all that, the consolidation keeps happening. Other economic situations happen. Super League happens. Minnesota might be on the outs 15, 20 years from now. Don't ever say that I believe Minnesota is safe forever. That's just not the case. I would never say that. Okay. Minnesota was really something when Hoover was president. Wow, here comes the shots. Okay. Monovision, remember when Minnesota was going to the Big 12? That was written by Charlie Waters of the St. Paul Pioneer Press. No comment on that. Patrick Boren, or Arizona and Colorado have options and are weighing their offers. No question about it. Has anything happened on Twitter since we've come on 2 hours ago? Any breaking news going on? Monovision, I think the Four Corners leave before Easter. Ooh, I don't know about this. Patrick Boren. Silence on the deal for the Pack. Some say it's because they're reviewing what Kliavkoff has given them in the 2 different rights agreements you previously mentioned. We don't think they've been given anything to vote on. We don't think it's even, we really don't believe it's at that point yet. They're not voting yes or no on a couple of deals that have been presented to them. It's actually the opposite. They do not have an opportunity to hash out comprehensive deals and say yes, to vote yes or no on it. They're not at that point yet. Maybe they will be next week, and then they can hash it out for a couple weeks. Pac-12 is so vulnerable right now. So vulnerable for a couple of different reasons. You got the Washington-Oregon situation that is true. Now we know that is real. That they just might wait this out and keep swinging Big Ten and not sign anything. And the Four Corners, the continued relationship building and the communication between them and representatives of Brett Yormark, that is happening. That is real. We talked about that weeks ago. That is real. The media, the economics around the media market is shrinking. It's in recession. It's in recession. That is real. There's a lot of real things happening. None of it is noise. Noise isn't affecting anything. Peek around the corner is not affecting anything. The Athletic is not affecting anything. Sports Business Journal is not. None of this stuff. All that cloak and dagger, all that is not real. The real cloak and dagger, representatives meeting with each other, representing the Big 12 and those Four Corner schools in Oregon and Washington, buying their time, keeping their powder dry. All that is real. Minnesota, no one contacted RW. Did Minnesota contact Big 12 first, or was it the other way around? Of course, it would be the school that contacted the conference first. Minnesota didn't contact anybody. In that report of Charlie Waters, the St. Pioneer Press, he said that the Big 12 had been spending time evaluating Minnesota. I can guarantee you Big 12 spent 0.00 seconds on evaluating Minnesota. Bruce Harris, I bet Minnesota was something before electricity. Wow. These insults are even more clever than when you guys rip on me for my beautiful singing. Holy smokes. Roger Dodger, I thought Minnesota was in Canada. You better thank your lucky stars that Minnesota is not a part of Canada. Because if Minnesota was not a part of Canada, then you wouldn't have true college hockey or professional hockey in this country. Let's put it that way, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. All right. Not Tony Altmore. Minnesota would be welcome in the new and improved Pack Mountain. Holy smokes. Jim Troy, thanks for coming in. Minnesota, the great Herb Brooks miracle. Absolutely. 10,000 lakes, a lot of rowing boat going up on Minnesota these days. Minnesota, I think they actually won a baseball game. I think we're 2-13. Minnesota Golden Gophers, number 14th seed out of 14 teams in the Minnesota Big Ten basketball tournament. And the Gophers defeated Nebraska Cornhuskers last night. So the Cornhuskers probably not going to the NIT. They blew it. They just had to beat Minnesota, and they couldn't do it. Well, this is true. This is true. Minnesota will run the same offense they did in 1922. That is. Now, that is true for the last many years. But this year, with the Greek rifle, Athan Klaklamanis, with our returning receivers, this year the Gophers are actually going to throw the forward pass in our offense for 2023. Yes, yes, yes. Here we go. Darren Taylor, Greg, I've heard the higher ups at Fox are mostly USC alumni. Does this impact anything? They are. I mean, they are. Yes. Yeah. Fox is loaded with USC, UCLA alumni. That is absolutely true. And does it impact anything? I'm sure it impacts somewhat, right? Although I got to... When USC called the Big Ten alone, UCLA called the Big Ten alone. When that situation happened, Fox Sports wanted the entire Los Angeles market. The Big Ten boosters wanted Los Angeles City to become Big Ten country. The national advertisers. The boosters figured the national advertisers would pay premium to get Los Angeles City as part of Big Ten country. All that is true. However, I don't think, again, I'm probably the only one who said this from day one. We don't believe USC said word one about Oregon and Washington. UCLA did not say they didn't say we're coming in as long as you don't bring other people with us. They just wanted to come in. USC had leverage. That's why they're fully invested Big Ten schools in the Big Ten network. They had leverage. We talked about it in March, April, May, when no one else knew the story was going on. And then we got raked over the coals for even bringing up the fact that Big Ten would expand way out to California. 90% of the comments were negative. But we also got raked over the coals that what we said that USC had leverage. Of course, Big Ten did too, but USC actually had leverage in these negotiations. We commented over and over again, and you saw the end results. USC, UCLA, fully invested in membership of the Big Ten. When the Big Ten Network was created, the 11 schools at that time, none of them took money from the Big Ten Network for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I think it was 5 or 6 years. Not a dime. Not a dime. Everything they got, they had to push back to Fox Sports because they're the ones who put the upfronted the money for the creation. So every year for like 5 or 6 years, when Big Ten announced how much each school made, it wasn't more than anybody else. It wasn't more than the Big 12 schools. It wasn't more than the ACC schools. And people were like, haha, look, the Big Ten Network, it's not worth anything. And then finally the Big Ten Network started making money. The exposure, the distribution started working. Nebraska came on board. They couldn't take a full payout from the Big Ten Network for 6 years. Maryland and Rutgers are still not taking a full payout because they've taken loans against their payouts. That's how they're paying it back. Whatever. USC and UCLA are the first 2 schools in the Big Ten to be fully invested. Right away, both of those athletic departments gains millions and millions and millions of dollars in value just because they have the slice of the equity of the Big Ten Network. So don't tell me that USC did not have leverage. They did. Absolutely they did. But they didn't have it to the point where they had the veto pen over all possible Big Ten expansion out in the West. That's not how it works. Texas A&M did not have veto power to keep Texas out of the SEC. It just isn't how it works. Yeah. USC rumors about resistance to Oregon and Washington is fanboy manufacturing. There's never been a single story of substance. They might be a vote against it. But they don't have veto power. And that's what people kept bringing up in our YouTube live shows and whatnot, and people out there on Twitter. But that's just not the case. Could San Diego State tip the scales in the Big 12 versus Pac? No, but San Diego State, if I was them, if I was J.D. Wicker, look, I don't know if it's rule number 3 or rule number 4. We're going to have to write these rules down in realignment, but one of the top 3 or 4 rules is realignment happens, domino effect. It starts from the top. You have to wait for the top domino to fall or not to fall. And then you got to wait for the second one and the third one. San Diego State has to wait for these other dominoes to fall. They have to wait to see if Brett Yormark is successful in poaching the Pac-12 schools. If he's not, then San Diego State has to hope that the Pac-12 is ready to expand. And if they're not, San Diego State is going to have to put a phone call back to Brett Yormark to see if they're willing to bring on San Diego State at a discount rate to bring them into the Big 12 conference. San Diego State, they have to commit to keep calling the Big 12 and the Pac-12, keep the lines open. Now how in the hell do we work an 18 into the B1G logo? Great question. Going to have to rebrand the whole thing once again if it happens. Yeah. Ohio State doesn't have veto, but we have a voting block. No question about it. Going to need Ohio State to get on board. What does the Buckeyes need? What do they need to see? One of the things they may need to see is have communication with Notre Dame and say, what does an Oregon and Washington additions, how does that affect your decision making going forward in the next 2 to 3 years on whether you're going to become a Big Ten member or not? Does that affect anything at all? Because I tell you, if when Oregon and Washington join the Big Ten, I'm not sure what happens to Stanford and California. They might not even be part of the Power 5 athletic Autonomy 5 or Autonomy 4 going forward. And then you have a 10-conference football schedule in the Big Ten with 18 schools. And now suddenly Notre Dame might not be able to schedule USC going forward. They probably will be, but maybe not. You know, it's a lot easier for Notre Dame to play one conference off against the other when there's 5 of them. If it shrinks down to 3 of them or 4 of them, it becomes more difficult. And plus, Notre Dame won't have any more veto power when it comes to the creation of the new football playoffs starting 2026. So we shall see. Mike Pastrick, 337 format. I don't see why not. T. Lawrence Gregston, thanks for coming in the house. Pac-12 board supposed to meet again in 2 weeks, according to Dallas News. See Twitter link. 2 weeks. Two weeks. I don't know. I don't think that works. They might meet in 2 weeks, but Cleocott better have a comprehensive deal in front of them. Well, it may already be too late, but they got to get in front of them as soon as possible. Just to be clear, from our perspective at Peek Around the Corner, the Pac-12 underperformed their lower expectations that the Arizona schools had for them this week. We were told, we gave you the information before this week. We gave you the information during Tuesday and Wednesday, how nothing happened, no comprehensive deal. You saw the Dennis Dodd report this morning. You've seen other reports out there. This is true. For some schools, this week did not help the situation. Maybe for others, they see it in a different way. Maybe in Oregon State and Washington State saw some stuff that they believe helped going forward. But I can tell you from what we've been told, what happened this week was an underperformance of the standards that have been lowered, the expectations that have been lowered by the Arizona schools. We have steam that we announced last night that Apple TV is out at this time. There's been no other reporting on it, but we thought we should throw that out there. It's not just speculation. It's not just educated speculation. It's a tier above that. True steam that Apple TV is out at this point in time. Do they come back in? Maybe, but we don't think they're a player at this point. We also asked this week a question. In the United States of America, it's still okay to ask a simple question. We're not alleging anything here at Peek Around the Corner. Let me repeat, we're not alleging anything at Peek Around the Corner. But the question I would like to ask, or I would like for some Pac-12 reporters to ask the Pac-12 conference, has those audits been completed? Pac-12 audits been completed? Did you overcharge anybody else? What is the total amount of money do you owe your past and current distributors of your content? Is it less than 50 million? Is it 50 million? Or has it grown over 50 million? Just a simple question. Okay, we're going to close it up. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. I appreciate you all coming in. Again, subscribe to our channel. Do not leave without subscribing to our channel because we could be coming on tonight. This is a very sensitive time for the Pac-12, a very vulnerable time. This week did not go well for them to keep that core together. Dennis Dodd's article did not come out today by happenstance, not by accident. The information that we've been able to provide this week just did not come out of thin air. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Stick with us, hang with us. And we're going to be covering a lot of stories once this one is over with. And I think that time is a-coming. So, until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.